Welcome back, everyone. Welcome back to What Do You Know with Nick and Devin. I'm Nick.
And I'm Devin.
And here we are. Happy, on this day of recording, happy Mexican Independence Day to you, Devin.
Heck yeah.
And happy New Year.
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say happy Mexican Independence Day to you as well.
Oh, thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
I was moving on to Rosh Hashanah. So
happy Rosh Hashanah. Beat you to it.
What a day of celebration we have.
There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on. The city is full. Yeah, it's quite the party out into the city.
Yeah.
And so I'll be interested to see what it's like when I get back home. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be great. Brian, my husband, had sent me this TikTok that was like all of State Street shut down, people in the streets. And we kind of talked about that. And I go, oh my God, that's wild. And then after that I go, but also Viva Mexico. Like, insane. And also
crazy.
Damn straight. But exactly. What's fun is, so I kind of took today, knowing that we were going to record today, and Hispanic Heritage Month into consideration going into this next topic. And I don't mean to cut our banter short by any means. However, I feel like I wrote it out and it's not going to be too long of a topic, but I think it is going to to be a longer topic.
You're a little worried. Yeah.
I'm a little worried. Not worried, because it's going to be a bundle of joy. Or, it's going to be great.
It's going to be great. Well, didn't Hispanic Heritage Month just start like on Thursday? Yesterday? Oh, okay. It's on my Google Calendar. I couldn't remember if it was Thursday or Friday. I'm always like, why does it start in the middle of the month? Obviously, like Mexican Independence Day is today. Or it's it's today. It's today the 16th. Jesus. Yeah. Okay. It's today. So like I guess maybe that's why. But like I don't know. The other part of my brain is like just start at the beginning of the month.
Thank you.
Started on day 1.
Everyone else gets a whole fucking month from 1 to 30. Okay.
Sometimes 31.
Right. You get that extra goddamn day. And it's also I get why it's September because of Independence Day, but also like I feel like I don't know. I kind of want like November. You know what I mean? Like started off with Day of the Dead.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like kick it off strong. But then I guess after that it's
then you have to deal with like Thanksgiving.
Right.
Like and November is I'm pretty sure November is Native American Heritage Month. Nowadays.
Is it?
I'm pretty sure.
Because does that tag along with Indigenous Peoples Day? Or is that in October?
No, because Columbus Day / Indigenous People Day. That's not in November.
That's in.
Mm-hmm.
That 1 month.
And
it's not November.
So I think we took November because of Thanksgiving.
Oh, because of Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
When they're
that
like
whole bullshit.
They were so kind to us and opened up their arms.
Right.
And now we celebrate and give thanks.
Yeah.
Do we?
We returned the favor, or they returned the favor by giving smallpox, killing everybody.
We love smallpox.
Diseased blankets. Fucking great. Anyway, let's get into your topic.
I kind of like this little coffee chat that we're having. If you're watching a video, we're just like drinking coffee.
Drinking
and,
our coffee.
Chatting. Yeah.
Thanks, Clancy Brothers Coffee. Moquita, local shop.
I want like a really bad like 80s pan to camera and like ding.
Like in Wayne's World, like, oh, we're not sellouts. Oh, Pepsi, new, fresh.
Yeah.
For the youth.
Exactly. And if we're anything, it's Wayne's World. That is us. Okay. All right. So yeah, let's jump in. I'm gonna warn you and the people watching.
Okay.
I'm gonna hold my laptop close because there's a lot of pronunciations.
Okay, that's fine.
That I need to make sure that I get right. Because today I'm gonna ask you, what do you know about the origins of the Aztecs?
Oh. I don't know anything.
Yeah.
And my white ass always mixes up stories of Aztecs and Mayans. And there's a third.
The Incas?
Yes, thank you. And I am so ignorant that I mix up their stories. I feel terrible about it. No, I don't know. I don't know anything.
Because it's, so like if you think of like the map of like Mexico and going into like Central and South America, you have Aztecs here, and kind of like north central.
Okay.
You have Mayans here, and then you have Incas down into like Central and Okay. All that.
Good to know.
Good to know.
Good to know. Yeah, no, I know, and I know like stories of conquistadors.
Yes.
Montezuma's Revenge. I think that's Mayans.
Montezuma is in the Aztecs.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. I know you just like shit yourself. Like if you, that's why like white people can't go down and drink the tap water when they go visit Mexico
because of Montezuma's Revenge.
Montezuma's Revenge. He cursed all of us, and you're gonna shit yourself.
You know so much about the Aztecs.
Oh wow, memory unlocked. I'm sorry.
I
know I just said that I don't know anything, and I still don't. But the reason why I knew about Montezuma's Revenge is because back in elementary school, I made a board game for class about Aztec or Mayan facts.
Okay,
and like the conquistador, like one of the spaces you could land on was like, oh, the conquistadors fucked you up. Go back like 10 spaces or whatever.
Oh my god.
It was really fun to play.
Like Candyland?
Oh, yeah, it was 100% like Candyland.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted to make sure that I got that correct. Right. I'm also picturing like chutes and ladders, but instead of like ladders and shoot, like you like fall down the temple stairs.
Yeah. Like... It has like the very like indigenous Mexican like snake design.
Perfect.
Yeah.
I'm going to need you to bring that back for a special
My mom
bonus episode.
Probably still has
it. Call Gail now. That's awesome. What do you call it? So, first of all, I don't think I need to really get into a lot of notes based off of that. I think
you know what? Done.
Thank you all for joining us. You can find us at. But yeah, so this is going to be. So that's another reason that like there's a lot of pronunciations because it's in the actual language.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god. Nahuatl is like the actual Aztec language, and there are parts of Mexico and people in Mexico that do still speak some Nahuatl, like to this day.
Oh, that's awesome.
Or at least it's still kind of like around.
Yeah.
I think of it, maybe not as prevalent, but I think of it similarly to like Gaelic in Ireland.
I was going to add, yeah.
Where it's like, there's certain areas of the island where people do kind of still speak it, but predominantly Spanish is kind of overtaking the land.
And folks are trying to preserve that knowledge.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
That's awesome.
So, for that reason, I don't speak Nahuatl. So like, yeah, I'm gonna.
We're gonna do our best.
Correct. So
I'm gonna be doing worse.
At first, what I did was I put the pronunciation at like the first time I saw the name, because a lot of it's just like God's names, and I was like, oh, I'll just like reference back to it, and then I kept on reading, and I was like, that's not gonna work. So after I either substituted the pronunciation for the God's name, or after every time I list it, I have the pronunciation.
Yeah.
It's super great. My notes are thorough. But we're gonna be talking about kind of the origin of the Aztec people.
Awesome.
Into them finding kind of their homeland and building their empire.
Okay.
I'm not going to go very much like into the empire itself. We're going to touch a little bit onto the fall of it, but more so the kind of creationism and the origins of the world and the myths around that.
Okay.
So it's kind of fun. It's definitely a little wild and weird, as myths are. But let me know if you have questions or if things like feel weird. I don't know.
Okay.
Because I guess
have a little like comfort scale.
Can we actually like a taboo buzzer?
Yeah.
Okay, so like I said, most of these stories are told in myths, including the start of civilizations.
Okay.
And so we're going to start with the legend of the five suns.
Yeah.
So which is like the origin of the world. Each sun is created when the god sacrifices themselves into the bonfire. So basically, when they say sun, they do reference like the big ball in the sky. Mm-hmm. But it's basically when a god decides that they want to rule the next kind of era of civilization or the next like world that they create, they throw themselves into the bonfire and they become the sun of that world, whatever that might look like.
Okay.
So that's why it's called the suns, or like I'll kind of reference, this person threw themselves into the fire or whatever it might be, because now they're becoming the sun that kind of rules over the world at that point.
Okay.
So the first sun is the Nahui Ocelot, which is the jaguar sun.
Okay.
And so this is associated with Tezcatlipoca, which is the god of sorcery, temptation, and change.
Ooh, I like this one already.
He's a sneaky little devil, and like kind of like the villain almost like of the gods.
Checks out.
And his name means smoking mirror.
Okay.
Which is like smoking a mirror,
trickery.
Trickery, stuff like that. So the gods create the first humans, known as people of water. Okay. So this is kind of like the first time civilization is being built. Now there's, of course, like backstory to that of like the very first two gods that then create all of these other gods, which is like these ones that I'm talking about now, but I'm not really going to get into like the origins of gods. Because that would be going into like, if we think of Greek, like the going into Titans and Kronos and like all of that. We're just going to kind of touch on where we're at here. So the humans, the people of water, humans that were giants and made from the bones of Cipactl, which was a huge like giant crocodile monster-esque thing that was eventually baited. So like Tezcatlipoca and his brother, where is it? Quetzalcoatl.
That one sounds familiar to me, actually.
He's very prominent.
Yes.
He is a big god in the Aztecs, in the Aztec world. And so they bait this crocodile, basically, and they capture him and they use his bones to make humans.
Okay, cool.
And during that battle, though, or that capture, Tezcatlipoca loses a foot. I know.
Gasp.
And so what happens is basically everything starts to come to an end as Quetzalcoatl is angered by Tezcatlipoca's inability to complete his kind of due diligence and his ability of being a son. One, because of his foot, and he can't be like whole, basically. Okay. And so he takes a big stone stick and hits him out of the sky into the water. And then Quetzalcoatl throws himself into the sun, thus becoming the next sun.
Okay.
However, Tezcatlipoca is upset by that, and so he's like, fuck you, I'm going to turn into a big-ass jaguar. So there's kind of two different sides to this. Either he turns into a big-ass jaguar, or he does that and controls all the jaguars on Earth and kills all the people on Earth.
Okay.
He's like, and now all your people are going to die.
Okay, so either like he, as the giant jaguar, eats everybody, or all the normal jaguars are like, we're going to fuck you up and eat you.
Right. Okay. But they're also like not regular jaguars. They're like
super jaguars,
right? Like a hellhound sort of situation. Yeah. Super jaguars. We're going to like the Power Rangers.
Capes.
Yeah. Exactly.
Just like Super Grover, but a jaguar.
That dumbfounded as well. So now we move into the second sun.
Yeah.
And the second sun is Naui Ehecatl, which is the wind sun. Okay. And it's associated with Quetzalcoatl, which his name means feathered serpent. And he's one of the most revered deities within the Aztec gods. Yeah. So you've probably seen a lot of him in different like scriptures or in different like carvings and things of that nature.
Yeah.
The god then creates within this sun. Gods create humans known as people of air. So they're tall and they're like kind of light-skinned people, basically. Okay. That goes through, and then as we come to an end, it's put to an end by hurricanes swept through the world. So what happens is Tezcatlipoca is still angered at being dethroned by his brother, and does not believe the new race of humans is respectful enough to the gods. So he turns into a tiger, as one does, and pounces on Quetzalcoatl and knocks him out of the sky.
Oh.
And then Tezcatlipoca then turns all of the humans into monkeys.
Damn. All right.
Which angers Quetzalcoatl and wipes them off the earth with hurricanes. So
who kills all the monkeys?
Quetzalcoatl.
Okay.
He's upset that his brother turned all of his humans into monkeys, and he's like, "Fuck the monkeys." And
I worked so hard, grinding up these alligator bones.
He's like, God damn it. And so he destroys them all with hurricanes.
Perfect.
So now we move into the third sun, which is Naui Kiahuitl, which is the rain sun. I also want to pause and say, if other people listening do speak this language and I'm just butchering the shit out of it, I am sorry. But these are the pronunciations that I found online, and I'm mixing kind of like Spanish pronunciation with this, and so I'm just putting that out there now.
No, I mean, that's fair. I mean, you're not trained in the language, and there are definitely way better experts out there, and we'd love to hear how it's pronounced correctly.
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to write down all the names and get back to me with pronunciation guide, I truly would love that. So now we move into the third sun, which is the rain sun. It's associated with Taluk, which the meaning of his name is in the earth. Okay. And so he's the god of rain, water, and thunder. And he's the husband to, here we go, Chalchiuhtlicue.
Okay.
And the gods create humans known as people of fire, strong and robust humans that only ate seeds. So this goes on for a while. But it comes to an end when Chalchiuhtlicue was his wife, kind of like now in the pantheon of the story of gods, but not his original wife.
Okay.
So that's a little backstory into this next story. So Tezcatlipoca, which is the trickery god, seduces and stole Taluk's first wife, Xochiquetzal, the goddess. I know. The goddess of sex, flowers, and corn.
Oh, well, okay. That makes sense then. The corn.
So, sex, flowers, corn. Kind of, it makes sense. Aggrieved by this, Taluk refused to provide for the humans, and a great drought ensued. Basically, Taluk's mourning and eventually becomes greatly annoyed by the people's prayers for relief on Earth that he just rains down fire and scorches the Earth.
Oh, shit.
He's like, I'm mourning. Have a little respect. And so then he kills all of them.
Perfect.
Right. So naturally, that ends the third son. And these are, for the most part, these suns are, there's not really like a set amount of time. Like some of them range about like 600 to 700 years. Some of them are different. And so.
Right. Well, it's kind of hard to pinpoint the amount of time in a myth.
Right. Correct. So it's more so like general, this is what's happening. So now we move into the fourth sun, which is Nawialt, which is the water sun.
Okay.
Which is associated with Chalchiuhtlicue, meaning jade her skirt, which means she wore like a skirt of jade.
Okay.
It also kind of means heart of the earth. It's like kind of the literal translation of it, but people didn't use Chalchiuhtli as meaning like earth. Mm-hmm. It meant more so like precious stone, and that's where they get jade from. They referred more to like jade.
Yeah.
And so she is the god of water, rivers, and aquatic life, as well as newborns and the sick.
Oh.
And so the gods then create humans known as people of water, and these humans are adaptable to aquatic environments and only ate maize.
Corn.
Correct. So this comes to an end when a great flood destroys the world. So what happens is...
I'm sorry. I need to actually backtrack on myself. Corn and maize are not the same thing. Maize isn't like maize like the more historical version of corn as we know it? Okay.
Like, yes and no. Like, they're derivatives of each other, but like, yes, they're not like quite the same thing.
Yeah.
But for this, we're just going to say like maize and corn.
Okay, great.
We'll focus more on the maize.
Great.
Yeah.
I just needed to catch myself.
Please pause.
Hold on.
So this ends with a great flood that destroys the world.
Okay. Oh, it destroys the world again?
Yeah. So we're ending. This ends the fourth sun.
Okay. So that's like what, 4 times now that people have been created and destroyed?
Correct.
All right. Great.
Mm-hmm. So what happens is why the world is destroyed is Chalchiuhtlicue acted with love towards her people, and then was while she was the sun, the jealous Tezcatlipoca accused her of faking her love to gain the people's adoration. So kind of turned the people against her, being like, she's fake.
Right.
You don't even go here. And so Chalchiuhtlicue then is distraught and devastated and cries tears of blood for 52 years, drowning the world in the process.
Holy shit.
But humans turned into fish to survive.
Swimming in blood.
So women in blood.
Perfect.
Wouldn't have it any other way. So now remember, the fish that you eat used to be humans back during the fourth sun.
Perfect.
So now the gods wish to create another sun. Okay. And they're like, all right, there's all this back and forth that's been going on. Like, we just need a fifth sun.
Right.
Someone just needs to sacrifice themselves to be able to do it.
Let's settle on this already.
Right. Now, all the major gods were like, I'm not going to sacrifice myself. Like, no. And so Texistecatl, the most beautiful god and son of Taluk and Chalchiuhtlicue, was chosen but he kind of chickens out at the last minute. He's like, It's like when Frodo's about to throw the ring, and he's like, no.
Right.
And so, but he chickens out only for Nanawitzin, which is kind of a lesser god as well, but he's like kind of short and like ugly and covered in boils. So it's like kind of sad. Yeah. But he goes around him and jumps into the fire and sacrifices himself.
The lesser.
So Nanawitzin,
the one that covered in boils,
right, goes around Texistilcatl,
yeah,
and throws himself into the fire. But Texistilcatl feels really bad, and so then he jumps in after him.
Oh, so now we got two guys.
Like, no,
in there.
Right. So then the gods are like, well, we can't have two sons. Like that could be like major chaos, and so they turn Texistilcatl into the moon.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So they turn into the moon, and the fifth son is created.
I would have thought the one covered in boils would have been the moon, because like that would explain all the
holes in the moon.
Yeah.
No.
Oh.
I know, you're thinking too logically. These are myths.
Right.
Come on. The most beautiful god is, of course, the moon.
That's true. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
And so now we move into the fifth sun, which is Nawi Ulin, which is the earthquake sun.
Uh-oh.
I don't know. So we are currently in the fifth sun.
Okay.
This is the world
right now.
Correct.
Yeah, you
Modern
and I are
time
talking
is
during
now,
the fifth sun.
We're in the fifth sun.
Okay.
Feel it?
Yeah.
Fifth sun.
It's a cloudy day, but...
Perfect. So this is, oh God, he's the main player in this, and so it's just a longer name.
Okay.
And so give me a moment. But he's associated with Huitzilopochtli, which means hummingbirds left. Now, it's kind of weird. So I'll give you a little. So hummingbirds left. The South was always depicted as left in maps with the Aztecs.
Okay.
So they really think it's more so like the southern gods, southern hummingbird sort of thing.
Okay.
And I'll get into a little bit more about like what the meaning behind hummingbirds is in a minute when we go into his origin story. But that's what the name means.
Okay.
And so he's the patron deity of the Aztecs and the god of war and the sun. He wielded a shield, war darts, and Xiocowat, which was a spear, as his spear, which Xiocowat was a blue lightning-like fire serpent.
Ooh, yeah. That's pretty cool.
You know when you have just like a blue fire lightning
serpent? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So he had one, right? He was like, ooh, that one.
Yeah.
So varying stories on the origin of him, but we'll stick to kind of one. And it's kind of more so the one that I like. The other one is more like he's one of the brothers of, the other two gods and all of these things. And he's born without skin, so they have to wait 600 years for him to get skin, and then they build the earth. And so it's like a whole thing, but I like this one a little bit better.
Up, but okay, yeah.
Right. You know when you're born without skin? So what happens is Huitzilopochtli was born to the goddess Coatlicue. Mm-hmm. She is a powerful and primordial deity, meaning snakes her skirt.
Okay.
And she was associated with agriculture and fertility.
Okay.
So she wore a skirt of writhing snakes and a necklace of alternating human hands and hearts, and had a snake head.
Just alternating human hands and hearts?
I like to think that it was more like overlapping hands and then a heart. Like very like demure, very cute.
Like, I just pictured like the Thing from Addams Family, just like crawl, like tapping on her clavicle the entire time.
They could be moving. It's either like hand, heart, hand, heart, hand, heart, hand, heart. Yeah. Or in my head, it's like overlapping hands, heart, overlapping hands, heart.
Right.
Very, depends on how many hands you can afford, really.
As a god, I feel like you should be able to afford a lot.
Right. Honestly, as many hands as you want.
You
varying
make them.
sizes. And and had a snake head. Super casual.
That's fine. I'm more concerned about the hand necklace. Yeah.
Hands and necklace. Yeah, it's fine. So she birthed 400 male children. Which are called the Sensonhuitnawe. And she also birthed Huitzilopochtli's older sister, Coyolxauhqui.
Okay.
So Coatlicue found a ball of hummingbird feathers at one point and tucked it into her breasts.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Hummingbirds were thought to be the souls of warriors or those that died during childbirth. So basically they believed after you died, after about 4 years, you were allowed to come back and reincarnated as a hummingbird.
If you were a warrior or
died during childbirth.
Yeah, okay.
Correct.
Interesting.
And so this action of her taking this ball of hummingbird feathers
where does this go into play?
Was kind of an immaculate conception of sorts, as she was, quote, conceived without having known man. Because the hummingbirds are souls of the dead, right? Of warriors or whatever. And so by actively putting like feathers into her body, it's kind of part of souls into her body. And so it's kind of this immaculate conception because now she is pregnant with...
Yeah, who's born from this?
Huitzilopochtli.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay.
So, again, Coatlicue has birthed 400 male children and a daughter. Okay. Now, she picked up the hummingbird feathers and was like, right underneath these babies.
Yeah.
I think she said that.
Uh-huh.
I have the quote. And so...
That's the one true thing that happened.
Correct. I was there. And so she is now pregnant with Huitzilopochtli.
Okay.
So what happens is Coyolxauhqui, who is the daughter, found out about this kind of unusual immaculate conception and flew into a rage where she gathered all of her brothers to kill their mother.
Oh, cute.
I hate when you're just like mad at your mom and want to kill her, you know. Matricide, I think it's called. And so they launched their attack, and just as they are about to kill her, Huitzilopochtli emerges from his mother's womb in full war regalia and fights his brothers and sisters.
Oh, shit.
He's like, bring it the fuck on.
Yeah.
And so I like to think that he's like dripping in like
just afterbirth,
right? They're like yeah, you know what I mean. That'll be in the movie. Don't worry about it. And so he then he is said to have kicked all 400 brothers into the heavens, and they become the southern stars.
Oh, okay,
cute, right?
Yeah, I guess.
This gets better. Then he rips out his sister's heart and tosses her body down the side of the mountain. Pause. This becomes the basis of human sacrifices for Huitzilopochtli by the Aztec people.
Okay.
Because they're kind of like, oh, you killed your sister that way, so we'll rip out a human heart and then throw the body down the temple side. Thanks. So that happened.
Any, if you don't know this, it's okay. Was there any like purpose to these sacrifices, or was it just like appease?
It's to appease him, and we kind of get into that a little bit. But it's mainly to appease him to make sure that he stays energized and strong. And so Coatlicue, the mother, resides in Aztlan, which is kind of the origin of the Mexica people, the Aztecs. And one day prophesies the end of the Aztec Empire, which is the only way her son can return to her. Oh. So kind of sad. Yeah. Because now she's like a lonely mom. Like, I'm here by myself. Right. With my snake head and my alternating hands and hearts. Can only play with so many hands. You know what I mean?
Rock, paper, scissors gets boring after a while.
Truly. But I think of how many games you could have going on at once. Tournaments. So the gods create within this sun, create humans known as people of sun or people of movement. Okay. So basically humans of today are made from bones of previous beings. So what happened was Quetzalcoatl was still annoyed that his people of the second sun had been destroyed. Yeah. Remember, his brother was like, monkeys, and he was like, fuck that. Right. So he went down to the underworld and stole their bones and dipped them in his own blood. Oh. And then they used those to create people. Okay. So we're kind of demigods.
Yeah, so we're twice recycled bones. Yeah. Because we were originally alligator bones. Right. And then we turned into monkeys, and those got. And then we were monkey bones dipped into god blood to become humans.
I think he saw Broad City and went reduce, reuse, recycle. Yeah. So this era is seen as the era of continuous existence. Yeah. However, it's unstable and threatened by its own demise. Okay. Casually. I think we're seeing that now.
The evidence is pretty clear.
Right. I don't think I need to elaborate on that. Yeah. So the stability of the fifth sun is contingent upon the nourishment and appeasement of Huitzilopochtli. And so for his energy and strength to ward off the forces of chaos and darkness.
Yeah.
And so again, to appease him, rituals and ceremonies were set in place to honor the god, including human sacrifices.
Perfect. Which is why we're going to bring in our dear friend to lay on this table and cut out their heart. Come on in!
And then just like it's the Dick Cavett set, like in Seinfeld. It's fine. What do you call it? So they were prophesized that if destruction does occur, it will be by earthquakes. Hence why it's the earthquake sun. So you remember like San Andreas?
Yeah, sorry, I'm choking on coffee.
Gotcha.
Okay, so we're going to die by earthquake.
Potentially.
That's going to be one of the big signs of the world ending?
Yeah.
All right.
According to the Aztecs. So...
We're seeing it. Okay.
That's kind of that's the history of like how our world was created.
Yeah.
Right?
So you know how, I'm sorry, I'm still on the earthquake in the world. You know how there's a supervolcano underneath Yellowstone?
Yeah.
And how like when that erupts and it's going to cause a bunch of earthquakes and a cloud of ash that's going to cover all of North America?
Uh-huh.
What if that's it?
Bum, bum, bum. But my thing is we're pretty advanced. So like, I think we could like figure that out. Not that we're going to like trap it. I just mean sort of like we would learn.
We're
going
to figure out the supervolcano.
We're gonna learn how to survive.
Oh no, we're
aren't we also on like a huge like dormant flat line? Or not flat line,
like
fault
Illinois.
Line? Yeah.
Yeah, there have been like minor
right.
earthquakes in this area.
But I heard that like our fault line's the biggest fault line. But it's like dormant. It's not like a threat to us.
I'm not too sure about that one.
But if like this thing goes off, like then all of a sudden it is a threat to us.
Right.
Oh my God.
No, the supervolcano is one of my fears.
When is it supposed to go off? We have no idea.
Anytime.
It's like Mount St. Helens, but bigger.
Yeah, much bigger. Yeah, it's like the entire park.
The entire park is a volcano?
It's a supervolcano.
Are you doing that topic soon?
I can now. I will. I'll scrap everything and I'll just talk. I'll just Google it.
Save that
quick.
for a spooky Halloween. Our
this
demise.
Is real scary shit.
Yeah, because it's real.
Yeah.
Oh, super great. I love that. Yeah. I'll live in fear for that.
I'll make a note.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Right.
Okay, so that's kind of part one.
End of the world, part one.
End of the world. Thank you. What do you call it? So now we move into the actual kind of origins of the Aztecs as people.
Oh, okay, cool.
Cool.
So are they considered, I mean, you'll probably answer this, are they considered people of the fifth sun?
Yes.
Okay.
We all are kind of considered people of the fifth sun.
Okay, great.
So within this, there are, from what I understand, there are other tribes and such, but from what I understand, all children are children of the fifth sun. All humans are children of the fifth sun.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of the Aztecs, the Mexica people were chosen to become the Aztecs. Sort of thing.
Okay.
Cool.
Yeah.
So, again, the Aztecs were originally known as the Mexica people, and they were a nomadic people. Mm-hmm. And so their journey begins in the legendary land of Atlan, which is unknown as to where that is. Right. There's, like, of course, debate and all of these things. The exact location is much up for debate and uncertainty among scholars and historians. We only know of the land through codices and oral stories. Some say it was in Mesoamerica. Others say northern Mexico / the southern U.S.
Yeah.
Going by their journey, I like to think that it was more so like northern Mexico, southern U.S. Yeah. But again, it's all through myth. You know what I mean? So we don't really know.
Who knows?
The way that we get the Aztec name, and this is in my notes, so apologies. So as AZ, Atlan, which is the main city that they come from, right? So they take that, and then Tech is from the Nahuatl language. Yeah. And it's kind of, I think, a little bit longer of a word, but basically they combined that. So it's Atlan and then man. So then it's, like people. Yeah. So then it's, Atlan people. And you get Aztec.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so that's where we get that name from. And so originally, though, they were the Mexica people. Mm-hmm. Also, they're from Mexico. So I don't know if if you get that correlation. Yeah. And so the Mexican people were given a prophecy of where their new homeland would be and where it would be. And the Mexican people were given a prophecy of where their new homeland would be and were guided by their god, Huitzilopochtli.
It's interesting to see how that's such a common theme in a lot of origin stories for certain peoples. I mean, like you see that in the story of Moses. You see that in stories within Islam and whatnot, like with Mecca and whatnot, and like the story of Jerusalem, and then like you go across the whole ass globe and you have like, oh, we have where we're supposed to be as chosen by our God,
right?
And it's I think that's one of my more like fun things to like be like, oh, we all have the same fucking story. We're all the same person.
Right. Well, what's interesting is you have a lot of, I mean, even in the origin story, you have a lot of like similarities with even Christianity or even researching the Aztec people and myths.
Yeah.
A lot of the myths started to shift, especially when the Spanish took over, because you have Christian influence into some of the myths. So yeah, I didn't choose those versions of the myths. But I mean, a great flood, giants that originally roamed the earth,
right?
Like all of these things. I mean, you have a giant water like serpent thing.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all of these things are also seen. You have humans being created from the bones of another. Like
right.
They kind of all blend together.
Common threads.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so it's more so, I think, a matter of what I think is interesting is once you start to timeline these things, is like, where does this myth play and who influenced who?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that's where I find, one, interesting. Two, because they're so far apart, it's not like Christianity started after the Spanish people met the Aztecs.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So how did those two things kind of cross? Is it just like us as like a nature of people and our consciousness to kind of create these things
right.
like inherently, or what is it that these commonalities
why
exist?
Do we have such a common thread of our origin stories?
They get a prophecy that they're going to be guided to their new homeland, right?
Yeah.
And so the prophecy and visions indicated an eagle perched on a cactus eating or fighting a snake.
Oh, okay.
Or rattlesnake.
Yeah.
Which you might recognize as the symbol of Mexico, as seen on the flag. So they believe that they were chosen by Huitzilopochtli because of a divine mandate and would be challenged to prove their worthiness throughout their journey to their new homeland.
Yeah.
So they depart Atlan, led by their priest leader, Tenoch, in about the 12th century, is what we're thinking. So throughout several decades, the Mexican people wander through various regions of central Mexico, facing numerous challenges and conflicts, indigenous groups, hostile rulers, natural obstacles. And then about the mid-14th century, the Mexican people seek refuge in Culucan, and are initially welcomed. So they're like, hey, help us out. And they're like, yeah, cool, that's fine.
Great.
However, when the ruler of Culucan sees the Mexican people are a marginalized foreign group, he decides to play a trick on them. You know, as you do. Love
Classic.
To really keep them down. And so he tells them to prove their worthiness of his land. He offers them a seemingly impossible task of retrieving a princess of Tlaxcala. Oh, hold on. Tlaxcala, sorry. A powerful neighboring city-state. So he's like, go get her.
Yeah.
And then if you get her, you can stay.
Right.
So the Mexican people accept the challenge and set out on their mission. So using divine guidance from Huitzilopochtli, they find the court of Tlaxcala and kind of infiltrate. And so they dress up as humble merchants and entertainers to engage and perform for the princess. Like,
okay.
How do we get close? How are we sly about it? Let's just kind of blend in, right? So at the right moment, they capture her and run off. And again, using divine intervention from Huitzilopochtli and an invasive strategy, they avoid pursuit and complete the challenge.
What a fun quest.
What a fun quest. I couldn't find much detail because I was like, what did they do? Like,
right.
But that's the overarching, you know? So while the Mexican people regaled their success, the ruler of Culucan was outraged and decided to attack them.
The fuck?
I know. He's like, no, that wasn't supposed to happen. You weren't supposed to win. And so the Mexican people flee the hostility and continue their journey in search of their prophetic land.
Yeah.
I know. So they're like, here we go. Keep going. So around 1325, the Mexican people arrive at the marshy shores of Lake Texcoco, which kind of looks like Texas, but Texcoco. But
yeah,
Texcoco. In the Valley of Mexico, where they see an eagle perched on a cactus with a snake in its talons in the middle of the lake.
Oh.
And they said, that looks familiar. Hey now. So they interpret this sign as a sign from Huitzilopochtli and determined this to be their new home. So the Mexica established their capital of Tenochtitlan. Tenochtitlan. Yeah. Tenochtitlan. Yes. On an island in the lake of Texcoco. So over the years, Mexican people form a powerful triple alliance with the city-states of Texcoco and Tlacopan and create the Aztec Triple Alliance in 1428.
Amazing.
Very original name. They're like, I don't make that sound powerful.
The ATA.
Right. Right, exactly. What do you call it? And so this alliance helps the Aztec people expand their influence and military power in the Valley of Mexico.
Yeah.
So that kind of takes them through the beginning of the empire.
Okay.
So they're like, finally like, okay, great. We've now met all these people. They're going to join us. We're going to create this alliance and expand the Aztec Empire.
Great.
So they expanded it, and it was super great, and all of that happened.
We had a good time.
Right. Everything was great. And then the fall kind of starts.
Well.
Uh-huh. So again, like I said, I'm not really going to go into like much of the empire itself, but we know a lot from the sense of like buildings and ceremonies, and it was a very prosperous, thriving metropolis of sorts. And the growth in the empire expands through the 15th century and the beginning of the 16th century. So they're rocking strong for a long time.
Yeah, I was about to ask how long, but that's great.
Yeah. And so during Moctezuma's the first reign...
I forgot there was two of them.
There was two,
I remember
baby.
there was two of them now. Oh, my God.
Huitzilopochtli's temple burned down with flames that were, quote, uncontrollable. Throwing water on flames only made them worse.
Oh.
So because of this,
Oil fire.
Exactly.
Come on, guys.
I mean, we get that. So the Aztec people would take this as an evil omen and a sign of the fall to come. So they're like,
fair.
Our main god's temple is falling.
But it's not earthquakes. Guys.
It's not earthquakes, but they're like, still not great.
Yeah.
So in 1519, Hernan Cortez arrives in the Valley of Mexico with the intent of colonization for Spain.
Yeah.
However, what I will say, in 1520, Conquistador Pedro de Alvarado attacks the city during Tozcatl, which is the kind of feasting day dedicated to Huitzilopochtli.
Mm-hmm.
And so within their sacred temple, he attacks and kills them. And that's kind of the downfall of the Aztec people. And so basically, it's interesting because you have the Aztecs account and you have the Spanish's account, right? So the Aztec account is the Spanish cleverly locked all exits and attacked for massacre while the Aztec people danced and celebrated without weapons and defenses. So they're like, we're having a great fucking time.
Right.
Dancing, drinking, having this huge feast for our god, all these things. And then Conquistador Pedro comes along and he's like, fuck these people.
Close the doors, kill them.
Yeah. So, but the Spanish account,
what do they say?
Which I believe it's interesting to read, and I don't remember if this is from Cortez's point of view, but there's kind of a like sorrowful account around, or like feeling around it of just being like, I didn't intend for this to happen, and that's why I think it's from Cortez, because he's like, I didn't intend for us to like kill all the people.
Interesting.
But like Pedro came in and was like, I'm going to kill them. Right. Yeah. So basically they're saying that they had to attack and kill the Aztec people because the, quote, Indians were going to rebel against the Spaniards. So they were like, we're hearing word that they're going to turn around and rebel and kill us. Yeah. So we have to kill them first. We're going to kill them first. Right. But in the kind of elongated version, it seems very much like Pedro kind of used that as an excuse.
Yeah. He was just out for blood.
Correct. And Cortez was like, oh, we want to, like, yes, take this for Spain, but like we also want to like, be nice to these people or like gain their trust or whatever it might look like. So who knows how much of that is actually true? But that's kind of the context of what we get.
And how much maybe Cortez was just painting himself in a good light.
Correct. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, of course there's, the Aztecs being like, we of course had no idea. And of course, like the Spanish came in, locked and sealed all the doors, like went through, had a very like elaborate plan to get into this in the middle of their sacred temple in this whole feast. That's another thing where they kind of see it as a demise of themselves because it was on the day of their deity.
Right. And I think too, like, I mean, the conquistadors came in full armor and like steel weapons. Right. I think a version of a gun was around then. I mean, definitely cannons at least, but I think some type of musket or blunderbuss was around by that point in time. So it's like,
you could say they came with guns, germs, and steel.
Oh my God! Wow.
Yeah.
Memory.
What did that unlock? Yeah.
Holy shit.
But I mean, between the attack and massacre of the Aztec people and the introduction of smallpox and all of these things, like everything just fell at that point. Yeah. And so that was kind of the downfall of the Aztec people. Mm. And so, of course, it seemed only appropriate that it's on their god's feast day. And, during the second Moctezuma's reign. During the first, you have this burning of this temple. Yeah. And so it just kind of, in their head, was like, oh, this was just doomed.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And then I if I'm remembering correctly, too, like when Montezuma II was around, he was like, you guys fucked us up. I'm cursing you. Yeah. This is Montezuma's revenge.
Ba-bam, baby.
Shit yourself. Go shit yourself.
But it is interesting when you look further into their entire kind of urban planning and agriculture and everything for the city. Like, it's structured very well. Yeah. You have like irrigation, you have all of these like waterways and things of that nature that were very advanced. And so, it would be fun to dive into the actual like prominence of the empire and what they built and what they shared and things of that nature. But that's like that's elaborate. Yeah, it's elaborate in and of itself. But I thought that the myth of the creation of the world and like their kind of challenge and walk through Central America to eventually get to, their homeland of Tenochtitlan was kind of cool.
So, where did they start and where did they wind up? They
wind up. So Tenochtitlan is Mexico City.
Mexico City. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. In current day, the heart is in Mexico City. Okay. So that's where they end up.
Great.
Where they started in Aztlan, we don't know where that is. Okay. So it's either south in Mesoamerica, and then they move north, or it's north in northern Mexico, southern U.S., and they move down into Mexico City. Okay. I think they start north and move south.
That would make sense to me.
Correct. Also, I mean, a couple different reasons. One, I think because your god is from the south, and so he's leading you south versus leading you north. I think that it just kind of makes sense because if they started south and moved north, they would have kind of run into some of the Mayan people. And I don't know that timeline per se, but like it just feels more so like they would go north to central and then end up in that area.
Right.
So, but that's where they end up.
That makes sense. Because like just looking at like the expansion of humans as a people from the central point.
Yep. Yeah. There's actually, and I'll show this to you later, but someone did a complete immersive recreation of Tenochtitlan. Oh. And like you can go into like the original structures of like, of course, like imagined based off of what we know currently. Yeah. But you can like go into them. You can see fully around it. It's really
cool. That's awesome.
It's really, really cool. That's cool. But it's just insane to see the intricacy of the works of the empire done in only about 1.5 centuries. Yeah. And I say only, but also like think of our past century. Yes, we built so much, but like they were so advanced for their time with only,
the Roman Empire, I know this was like well before, but like the Roman Empire was around for 1,000 years. So like if you think of what they did in just that short amount of time of like, what did you say, 1.5, 2 centuries, it's like that's incredibly impressive compared to like the 1,000 years of the Roman Empire.
Well, and to go from a nomadic people to this expansive,
huge empire,
technologically forward empire is insane. Yeah. And I think that's where Ancient Aliens comes into play. I love that show. I think it's hysterical. But yeah, so that is the story of the Aztec people and some of their myths and things like that. Thank you for everyone for going along with me with pronunciations. Appreciate that.
You did great. I didn't even try to pronounce that. I was like, so what's this guy about?
And my favorite is I'm reading the notes. I'm like, okay, get ahead so you know what this, okay, read it before you say it and go. It was great. But yeah, so again, I think it's always fun to start to play into, as we already kind of talked about, play into myths and see commonalities and things of that we were we learned in school. Yeah. Because in school, we touched so much on the Greeks and the Romans and things of that. We'd never touch very much like the Aztec and
Western history.
Of course it is. So that's the fun stuff. I thought you would love Tezcatlipoca, the kind of trickster god.
Oh, yeah. That's my jam.
You're like, oh, fucking yeah.
This guy's my guy.
Well, him and his brother, hold on. Quetzalcoatl seem very like Loki Thorish.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I think is fun.
There's connections. We're gonna have like a giant board with red string.
I hope so, but very like 60s, 50s style.
Oh yeah,
like glasses and suits and like a little like pointer
pen protector.
Yes. Okay, cool. Well, that is my story for you.
Great. Thank you for sharing it with me.
Yeah.
I learned a lot. Obviously, I only remembered so much from my made-up board game.
I'm gonna need you to call and get that out.
It had like even like cards to come with it and
Oh
everything.
my god!
Like, you rolled dice. I made up cards for it.
Somebody call Hasbro.
I think it was, if I remember correctly, like the board itself was in the shape of a snake, like from that design and stuff like that. It was a blast.
Was it one of the writhing snakes of the goddess's skirt?
I didn't know about that, and I think I would have been in trouble if I knew about that at that age.
Correct. Thanks again, Dev. Everyone, you can find us on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube at whadoyouknow_podcast, and you can find us on X or Twitter at WDYK_podcast. Do all the things, like, subscribe, comment, all the stuff, so that we can keep on growing and bring you more things.
Exactly. And let us know if you want to hear anything specific, or if you have anything to say about what we're talking about on the show.
Yeah, buddy. Okay. All right, Dev. Have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you later.
Thanks, Nick.
All right. Bye.